So after another dramatic weekend in the Championship, that is how the table is now lining up, and it really is too close to call. We've only got a few games left of this season now, but I'm excited to see how it's all going to climax. Coming up over this Easter weekend, we've also got a lot of football going on. This weekend's score prediction video will be coming out a day earlier than normal, as we do have a full fixture list going on Friday. So make sure you do stick around for that. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you make of your team's performance this weekend. We got a lot of talking points to go over in today's video. And before we do get into any of the games, I will include your guys' comments on screen now. So if any of you did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, then your comment will be included on screen now. I managed to get one of mine correct this weekend. I managed to predict the Reading against Brentford game, so not too bad going from me. But without further ado, let's hop in to talking about some of these games. So starting things out at Villa Park, where we had Aston Villa beating Bristol City by 2-1. It's the home side 8th consecutive win in the Championship now, and they now have a 5-point lead over 7th place Middlesbrough. I think it's important that Aston Villa picked up a result in this game, especially considering the last 2 games of Villa's season are against Norwich and Leeds United. They'll be hoping to have their top 6 place confirmed by the time they get into those 2 games, but this one, the stand-up performer had to be Bristol City's goalkeeper Max O'Leary. In the second half especially, Villa were dominating this one in terms of chances created, possession. El Ghazi was causing all sorts of problems cutting inside, but Max O'Leary had an absolute worldie of a game in this one. He made 2 or 3 point-blank range saves, and considering he was Bristol City's 3rd choice goalkeeper coming into this season, he was absolutely unbelievable in this game. Before the deadlock was eventually broken, both sides had chances, and both teams had actually had goals ruled out for offside. The goal which did kick things off for this game, a Tammy Abraham penalty, a little bit controversial. I thought it was a very soft penalty. It was Hunt who was judged to have given it away. I thought he was just standing his ground in the box, really. The player went down, and I wasn't really convinced by that. But after that point, Aston Villa really started to get into their stride a little bit. Soon after that, Conor Hourihane managed to make it 2-0. Jeju did get a goal back for Bristol City with quite an acrobatical effort in the 74th minute, but overall Villa went on to get all 3 points. Despite a bit of a dodgy penalty, the way the whole game went, it was probably Villa who deserved all 3 points for this one, considering some of the chances they did craft out, and considering they were without Jack Grealish for this game, a big statement from the home side in that game. And then we had Derby comfortably beating Bolton by 4-0, and this result does mean that Bolton can be relegated in their next game against Aston Villa, and it really wasn't a pretty showing from the away side in this one. Derby had the better of it for the majority, really. The first goal coming from Craig Bryson after a nice run from Harry Wilson. I'm not sure what Bolton were trying to do in terms of the defensive shape for this one. The second goal was quite a nice give and go between Mason Mount and Martin Waghorn. All the Bolton players seemed to get sucked into the ball, and no one really was playing off the second balls and things like that. In the second half, Mason Mount then went on to complete his hat-trick. It was a fantastic performance from him, and since coming back into the side, Derby have looked a lot more potent going forward, especially in those 2 home games against Bolton and Rotherham. There are still elements of inconsistencies in Derby's games. You know, we saw that in their last game against Blackburn Rovers, but they're still with a fantastic shout of making the top 6, especially with Bristol City losing this weekend. They're only 2 points off catching them at the moment, and they do have a game in hand on Middlesbrough, who are currently above them. In terms of Bolton, they really didn't have anything to shout about for this game. They were second best for all of it. I feel like going down to League One, the club just needs a full reset from top to bottom, really. And then we had Ipswich drawing 1-1 with Birmingham, the result meaning that Ipswich have now been relegated down to League One. And despite that, I've got to give credit to the Ipswich fans. You know, at full time I saw they were still chanting everyone, they were applauding all the players off the pitch, and I must say, going into League One, I just feel like Ipswich are much more prepared than Bolton. I'd rather be an Ipswich fan going down there than Bolton at the moment. But for this one, it was Birmingham who took the lead. Some quite suspect defending from Ipswich. I think it's fair to say the ball was flashed across the box. It went past a couple of Ipswich players who had the chance to intercept it, and eventually Djukovic managed to get on the end of it to give Birmingham a 1-goal lead. In that first half, Birmingham had the chances to possibly make it 2-0. Bilkowski popped up with some decent saves, but in the second half, the momentum of the game had shifted a little bit. Edwards got Ipswich back into the game, and it was a fantastic goal. The ball was hung up at the far post, and then a really nice finish into the top corner, managed to make it 1-1, and at that point the game really was in the balance. Both teams were having chances. Ipswich had a fantastic chance to make it 2-1. Alan Judge just hitting the post with a volley. Jackson had the chance which just went wide for Ipswich, and similarly to that, Jota was also causing problems throughout the second half, but eventually finishing as a 1-1 draw. Ipswich going down to League One, but like I say, I feel like there's a bit more optimism around there going into next season. And then what could turn out to be quite a decisive game in the race for the top 6, or Middlesbrough beating Hull by 1-0. Britta Sombolonga scoring the only goal of this game. Hull, I thought, would have been quite disappointed not to get on the score sheet with some of the chances they had for this one. The goal of Sombolonga scored, it was a ball flashed across the box, and Sombolonga was there at the back post to find the back of the net. Sombolonga probably was Borough's biggest goal threat going forward. He hit the crossbar in this game, had a couple of other chances in the second half as well, but Hull were carrying their attacking threat throughout this game. When Middlesbrough do go ahead and sit in that quite defensive deep block, they can be an absolute nightmare to break down. Hull did have some chances. Fraser Campbell had a couple of them. Grosicki had a couple, one late on as well, a free kick which was tipped onto the bar by Darren Randolph, a terrific save from him to keep them out. The result leaves Hull 5 points off the playoffs and leaves Borough in 7th, just 1 point off the top 6. The result probably means that Hull are out of the race for the top 6 now, but I've got to say that Nigel Atkins and that whole squad have done an absolutely tremendous job this season, considering everything that went on over the summer. You know, they had a bit of a fire sale with everyone leaving. I didn't give them much chance. I thought that they'd be fighting in and around the relegation zone this season. They more than proved me wrong, and despite probably not making it into the top 6, I think it's been a valiant effort from them this year. And then we had Forest losing again for the 3rd consecutive time as the away side Blackburn picked up back-to-back wins in the Championship. It was a brilliant goal which took the lead as well. Joe Rodwell, the ball initially coming in from a corner, it was headed back out, and then such a casual finish to loop it into the top corner from the edge of the box. A brilliant way for Blackburn to take the lead. In the second half, Blackburn soon managed to double their lead through Danny Graham. Bradley Dack eventually managing to squeeze the ball to him, and Graham was there to finish to make it 2-0 to Rovers. After that, the game got a little bit frantic really with some of the chances that were created. The goal that Forest got back into the game with, I thought that David Raya probably could have done a little bit better with. He looked a little bit weak with the ball looped into the box. But after that point, both teams went on to have chances. Despite having quite a lot of the ball going forward, Forest only managed to have 1 shot on target for this one. And I have to say, I thought that Kostel Pantilimon popped up with some big saves in the second half to keep the scoreline down. Bradley Dack had one terrific chance, as well as Joe Rodwell to get another goal in this game. Honestly, the situation with Forest around Martin O'Neill at the moment, I would be quite surprised if he was still the manager there next season. I know that Forest don't have a brilliant track record in terms of keeping hold of managers, but with the way that things are going at the moment, I'm not sure if he's the right fit long term. Forest fans, what do you think? Let me know down below. And then if anything goes to sum up the Championship, this game probably goes ahead and does that. Coming into this game, Swansea City had won their last 3 games. They'd scored 9 goals in the process of that. QPR were on a really torrid run of form. They'd only scored 1 goal in their previous 3. However, this game completely flipped around the form books, and QPR walked away with a very convincing 4-0 home victory, and they were fully worth it in this one. Swansea were absolutely awful. QPR took the lead after just 3 minutes in this one, and the first 15 or 20 minutes of this one, QPR were absolutely rampant going forward at the Swansea City side, and Swansea just didn't know. They looked like a side that hadn't warmed up for this one. They didn't look ready for the oncoming QPR attacks, which were just bombarding them. Nordvelt, the Swansea goalkeeper, I thought looked quite weak in a lot of situations. A lot of chances came from balls swinging into the box from wide areas, and he wasn't particularly commanding with any of them. There was one particular goalmouth scramble in the second half, which anything could have happened with that. Swansea's defence looked absolutely all over the place, but like I say, QPR fully worth their 3 points in this one. They'll be hoping to continue like that for the rest of the season, and this result does mean that they are now 8 points above the relegation zone and should see them safe for this season now. And then we had Reading picking up a massive 3 points against Brentford with a 2-1 home victory. This result lifts Reading to 4 points above the relegation zone now, and looking at Reading's running from now until the end of the season, the next 3 games are against sides who are currently in the top 7. So to pick up all 3 points in this game against a pretty inconsistent Brentford team at the moment, I felt like it was an absolute must. But it was Yaku Mete giving Reading both goals after just 15 minutes in this one. The first one, a nice link up between him and Modou Barrow. Quite a simple through ball actually, but that completely split the Brentford defence apart, and then Mete was able to latch onto it and give Reading the lead. His second goal came from a free kick swung in. Mete managed to get on the end of it to make it 2-0 to Reading, and you just feel as if with Brentford, there is quite a bit of defensive fragility there. Even when Brentford did get a goal back just before half time, Martinez's mistake as he couldn't hold on to an initial free kick when Pay managed to get onto it. In the second half, you could still feel as if Reading were fancying their chances of getting another goal when they went forward. Despite quite a frantic end to the match, it did finish 2-1 to Reading, and a very big 3 points for them in the race for survival. I'm not sure how to sum up this next game. We had Sheffield United 1, Millwall 1 in one of the most dramatic games we've seen so far this season in the league, and possibly this is the game where Sheffield United have said goodbye to automatic promotion. They're now 3 points away from Leeds United, and although that is very catchable with how changeable the Championship is at the moment, I'm not sure if they're going to make this back. Now, the United fans, let me know down below what you're feeling after this one. I feel like the range of emotions must have been absolutely everywhere, but it was Gary Medine who gave United the lead after Flecker got in behind the Millwall defence and pulled it back across. From that point onwards, Sheffield United never really went on to assert their dominance, and Millwall started to grow back into the game. They had a couple of chances from long-ranging efforts, and not really helping for things. Basham had to go off injured in the first half, and Billy Sharp also had to go off injured, and although it's not been confirmed how long they'll both be out for, it wasn't looking brilliant at the time. And if those two players are missing for the rest of the season, they are absolutely massive blows for United. Dean Henderson was popping up with more saves as the pressure was continuing to grow on this Sheffield United defence. And then we had John Egan doing his best Luis Suarez impression from the 2010 World Cup. He punched the ball off the goal line to keep the ball out. He was rightly shown the red card, and you're thinking Millwall are going to get back into it with the penalty, but no, Oh, that hits the crossbar, and Sheffield United are looking like they're going to go on and just about hold out for all 3 points. Millwall were doing everything in the later stages of this game. They were swinging balls into the box. Cooper had one, which was well held by Dean Henderson. But then in the 95th minute, to all the elation of Millwall and Leeds United fans, Jake Cooper popped up with his 6th goal of the season to make it 1-1. And that result now leaves Sheffield United third, 3 points away from Sheffield United. So the question I ask to you guys is, it really is looking like it is Leeds in pole position now. Don't get me wrong, Sheffield United have still had an absolutely tremendous season with everything that's gone on, but that result really is a gut-wrenching one for United, whereas Millwall, what a massive point that could be for them. And then we had Rotherham coming back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 with Stoke City this weekend, and Rotherham just about doing enough to hold on to the hope of getting out of the relegation zone at the moment. They're currently 2 points adrift, but with this result they've still got every chance of getting out for the final few games. It was Stoke who got the lead after Sam Vokes and Sam Clucas came up with two quite quick fire goals in the 27th and 29th minute to give Stoke the 2-0 lead. Despite being 2-0 down, Rotherham hadn't actually played that badly, and if it wasn't for some big Jack Butland saves, Rotherham probably could have got back into it in that first half actually. That trend continued into the second half. Rotherham were continuing to pile the pressure on Stoke City. Once again, Jack Butland was being their get out of jail free card, but in the second half Rotherham did manage to get back into the game. Michael Smith heading home from a corner, and then after a trademark Will Vokes long throw in, Crooks managed to get on the end of it and make it 2-2. In the final stages of this game, it was Rotherham who were having the better of it as well, and they were probably unlucky not to go on to win this game once again if it wasn't for some more Jack Butland saves. And with everything going on at Stoke at the moment, I'm feeling like their fans just want this season to end now. Have I seen much progression over them under Jones over the past month or so? I'm not really sure if I'm seeing it. And then we have West Brom beating Preston by 4-1, and this one just had a really weird atmosphere going around because everyone at the ground was fairly sure that Alex Neil was going to go on and become the next West Brom manager. He was by far the front runner for the job, and it was said beforehand that, you know, West Brom will make a formal approach for him after this game had taken place. So it was a bit of a weird atmosphere really. You know, the Preston players didn't really know what they were playing for with the manager who looked set to leave. West Brom were potentially playing in front of their new manager, so they were wanting to impress, and in the first half West Brom completely blew us out of the water. Dwight Gill eventually went on to get a hat-trick. The first goal was absolutely fantastically taken. A ball looped over from Chris Brunt. Our defenders probably were caught ball watching a little bit, but there was a fantastic finish from Gale to make it 1-0. The second goal came from Josh Earl giving the ball away. Rodriguez went on to get the third goal, and eventually Gale wrapped up his hat-trick in the second half. The second half was a little bit more level. Preston had some more chances. I thought we looked better when Callum Robinson did come on. Before he got his goal back in the 91st minute, he had a couple of chances to get back into the game. Lucas Nemecha was causing a few problems as well, but West Brom are more than deserving of their 3 points for this one. You know, the mentality of the Preston players I think was a little bit off for this one. But then a day later, after the game, Alex Neil has come out and signed a new 3-year contract with Preston North End, so I'm absolutely delighted with that. I was fairly certain that he was going to go on to leave, so fair play to Alex Neil for sticking it out with North End and signing that new contract. I feel like it's probably best for both clubs. I know that West Brom fans weren't too keen on getting Alex Neil in the first place, and I think that building towards the future, I think that Alex Neil really is doing something with this Preston squad, and for him to sign a new 3-year contract I think is a very good omen for the future, because I think he would have only signed that contract if he did have some reassurances over the summer that either key players aren't going to be sold or that he's got, you know, more money to spend over this summer. So I really hope we give it a good go next year with Alex Neil. In terms of West Brom though, I was quite impressed by their performance. Like I said, they blew us out of the water in that first half, and with that result that pretty much goes on to guarantee their playoff spot this season. And then we had Leeds beating Sheffield Wednesday by 1-0. The result gives Leeds a 3-point lead over Sheff United going into the final 4 games of the season, and they are now in pole position for promotion to the Premier League. And looking at their fixtures between now and the end of the season, their toughest one is going to be against Aston Villa. Although their other 3 games, you've got to say, I fancy Leeds to get all 3 points against Wigan, Brentford and Ipswich Town, so it really is in their hands now for promotion. But in terms of this game, Sheffield Wednesday were turning out to be quite a tough side to break down actually. Westwood especially was popping up with some massive saves. In the first half, Tyler Roberts had 2 very good chances which were turned away by Westwood. Harrison had a chance as well which was denied. Eventually Harrison was a player who got on the score sheet. Another assist for Pablo Hernandez, and then just the faintest of touches from Harrison to guide the ball into the bottom corner past Westwood to make it 1-0 to Leeds United. And that one goal was going to be enough. Wednesday, despite looking good defensively and with Westwood especially, going forward they never really got into their stride, and Leeds were more than worthy of all 3 points in this one. And like I said, that now leaves them in pole position with only 4 games to go of this season now. And then to finish things off on Sunday, we had Wigan drawing 1-1 with Norwich City. Not the worst point in the world for Wigan, you know, going into this one they probably would have taken that, but on reflection of the game, I actually thought it was the home side who probably had the better chances for this one. Reece James took the lead for Wigan from the penalty spot, despite Tim Krul guessing the right way for this one. It was well hit into the bottom corner, and Wigan went into half-time with that 1-goal lead. In the second half, they were continuing to ask questions of that Norwich City defence. Tim Krul had to be kept on his toes with a couple of saves. Reece James also had an effort which just flew over the crossbar. And I think that Norwich have just lost maybe a little bit of their rhythm in the past week or so. You know, that's 2 draws on the bounce now, whether it's because of the absence of someone like Emi Buendia. You know, his attacking intelligence was always quite a big part of this Norwich game plan. But despite that, Timu Pukki was on call to get Norwich back into the game with a cool finish. And then Wigan thought they won it late on when Leon Clark popped up with a goal, but that was ruled to be offside. Watching the replay, it looks incredibly close. But in the end, it was to finish as a 1-1 draw. And Wigan's running is looking very interesting. Their next game is against Leeds away. You probably wouldn't fancy them to get anything from that. After that, they face my team Preston at home, and that could be a real season definer for them. And despite Norwich drawing their last 2 games now, they are 7 points clear of 3rd place Sheff United, and should in the next week go on to get promotion. But guys, there were all the games that went on this weekend in the Championship. In terms of my goal of the weekend, a couple of contenders for this one. I think I'm going to have to give it to Joe Rodwell for his goal against Nottingham Forest, although Dwight Gale's first against Preston was a fantastic finish. Watching that from behind the goal, it was a very well-timed finish after a brilliant ball over the top. And then for my result of the weekend, I think I'm going to give it to Leeds for beating Wednesday by 1-0. That result lifting them 3 points above Sheff United now, with them dropping points this weekend, and it puts them in pole position for promotion this season. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for this video. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below, and make sure you subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.